Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing a blooming gel marble ombre. I kind of wanted to do like a really pretty subtle spring design, so a little bit different to last week's video. Now in today's video I am going to be working on a practice hand, so we can skip doing prep and base coat and jump straight in with our base colour. And for that colour I've gone for the beautiful tea rose. I feel as though this is a really lovely nude to pair with some pastels. And then I always have my striped liner brush to hand when I'm doing any kind of gel polish application, because it really helps to get a nice neat cuticle area. If you don't have this brush, I highly recommend it. I don't think I do a gel polish set without it now, whether it be just doing a plain one colour gel polish set of nails. It's handy, as you can see here, for getting right up close to the cuticle and the sidewalls without worrying about flooding that area with gel polish or touching the skin and cuticles. And of course it's a nail art brush, so it is amazing for your hand painted nail art, whether it be line work or detail work. If you haven't already checked out the Kiki London nail art brushes, I do highly recommend them. Now coming in on this set of nails, I'm going to start off by doing one coat of that beautiful tea rose, and as you can see in one coat it's a really pretty natural rosy nude shade to it. It is one of my go-to nudes. I really do love this one. So I start off by taking a small amount on my bottle brush. As you can see, one side of that bottle brush I've completely wiped off, and then I wipe off half on the other side, because you don't need to go in with loads of gel polish. You want to keep those layers nice and thin. And then with this coat I get as close to that cuticle area as I can, but I don't stress about getting right up close, because that's where that striped liner brush comes in handy, and I can just use this to nudge that gel polish closer and get that nice neat cuticle line. Now when you are applying your gel polish, you want to make sure that you're not applying it too thickly, because then you're going to end up with a bulky application. And we're going to do this, usually we would apply 2 coats of our base color, but because of the design we're doing, I'm just going to be doing 1 coat. But obviously when you come in and apply your second coat of color, that's when you get a lot more of the opacity from the shade coming through. So don't worry if it looks a little bit uneven or a little bit sheer on that first coat. So we're going to pop that first coat of colour in to cure for 30 seconds, and where we're going to be doing a marble ombre, I want the marble to be underneath that second coat of tea rose, so that's why we've not applied our second coat. So for our marble we're going to be using the beautiful Buttercup for our yellow. I've been really excited to get Buttercup out for spring. And then we have Spring Fling, which is this super pretty pink, and then one of my absolute favorite colors, which is Mojito Ice, which is a really beautiful pastel green with kind of like a hint of blue. It's like a minty green blue shade. And then of course for any kind of marble I always make sure I've got my blooming gel to hand, because it makes marble work so much easier. Now to start off with, I'm going to apply all three of those shades to the Kiki London nail art palette. Be really careful when you're doing this, because on the palette you do want the colors to touch. However, you want to make sure that you're not getting any of the previous color on your bottle brush and contaminating your bottle of gel polish. So just if you do see that you've picked up any colour on your bottle brush, wipe that off before you pop it back into your bottle. Once you've got those 3 shades down on the palette, I'm going to take the Kiki London dotting tool and just swirl through them to help mix those colours together without overly mixing them together. As you can see, creates this really cool pattern. And then we are going to just pop that marbled gel polish to the side for now and come in and apply our blooming gel. So I'm going to apply the blooming gel to all 4 of the nails, and then you leave this wet. So we don't pop this in to cure just yet, but I'm not stressing too much about taking this blooming gel right up to the cuticle area, because the product works simply by helping your marble or your gel polish bloom. So you don't need to worry about going in with a striped liner brush and getting a nice neat cuticle line with this. However, you do want to make sure that you're applying it nice and evenly and not too thickly as well. A little bit goes a long way, especially when you are working on shorter nails as well. So I'm going to apply a thin coat of this to all of those nails, and then I'm going to pick up my round nail art brush, scoop through that marbled gel polish and start gently wriggling it on to the nail. Now the other great thing about the blooming gel is it helps pull that gel polish off your brush onto the nail, so you have to do a very little work. As you can see, I'm doing like really tiny little wriggles just to help release that colour from my brush. Cleaning off some of that excess gel polish just on the palette and then picking up a load more for the next nail. The reason I like to clean off the brush is so that you're getting a nice fresh scoop of that marbled design. Then as you can see, it's starting to marble. If you look back to the little finger, you can see the blooming gel starting to do its thing. It's fading out, which is exactly what we want when we're doing an ombre design. We're only applying our marble to the tip of the nail, and we want to fade that in to that tea rose we've created, and the blooming gel is going to do that for you. So you can see the edges of that marble are going to start diffusing, and also the colors are going to start marbling together a lot more. You can see on the palette the marble was quite harsh, and then once we've got it down into that blooming gel, it starts all softening and marbling together a little bit more with very little work. As you can see, I scoop it up, wriggle it on to the nail, barely touching that gel polish, just going backwards and forwards with really little wriggles. And I don't want to take it too far down the nail at this point either, because obviously we're doing an ombre, it's going to fade over and you're only going to see this marble at the tip of the nail. Now what I like to do is we've let it bloom for a little while, so I'm just showing you guys here. It bloomed a lot more on the little finger, so we're going to give the other fingers a little bit of time to catch up whilst it's still wet. So we've not popped anything into cure yet. I'm going to come in with my striped liner brush and just move any areas around where I want a little bit more of marble, or any areas, especially right on those sidewalls where the gel polish marble might not have reached yet. This is a great time to go in and pop any little air bubbles you've got as well. Then we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds, and that's going to cure and freeze that marble in place. Now we're going to jump back to using our tea rose to create our ombre effect over the marble. You could do 2 coats of tea rose in the beginning and leave it like this, so you would have that gel polish marble on the surface of the nail, but I wanted it to look a little bit more subtle and a little bit, I do find doing it this way you get a little bit more of a flawless ombre effect. So what I'm doing is coming in with my second coat of tea rose effectively, but we're just going to apply that down on half of the nail. So I'm coming back in with that striped liner brush again to get a nice neat cuticle line, and then over the marbled area of the nail I'm taking some regular clear base coat, and this is just going to help us ombre that color together. So it's going to help us ombre the tea rose over the marble without it looking too harsh. And to do this, I'm going to use the Kiki London Ombre Brush. So as you can see, we've got the tea rose halfway down and then our clear base coat, and we're coming in and just blending those two together. And of course the clear base coat is gonna mix an ombre with the tea rose and create a softer effect as we get over that marble, and it's going to cover up a little bit of the marble, but it gives that more softer blended look, which I really like. A lot of the time when I used to try this design before or do this design before, I would do 2 coats of my colour and then just pop the marble over the top, which is cool. It creates a really fun smoky look at the edge of the marble, but if you want a more seamless look, I recommend trying it this way. So again, coming in with our tea rose, being really careful that we don't take it too far over that marble, and also being careful that we don't apply too much. You only do need a little bit because obviously you're not covering the entire nail. Taking that striped liner brush, going right around the cuticle and sidewall area, and then we're going to take our base coat, and when it comes to applying that base coat, you'll see that I push it up so it touches the tea rose. I actually have a separate bottle of this little base coat that I simply only use for this kind of ombre, because I tend to use the rubber base coat whenever I'm using any kind of base coat, or the fiber. So this classic base coat, I mainly use this for doing any kind of ombre nail art. And then as you can see, you do only need to go in with your striped liner brush a few times, backwards and forwards, being really careful until you're happy with how those two colours have ombreed together. Obviously, where you're ombreing with clear, it's really, really easy. You're not having to create a blend or a transition between the two shades. And then I do come back in here and there with that striped liner brush after creating that ombre, just to make sure everything is still nice and neat around that cuticle area and around the side walls. And you can also use your striped liner brush at this point to perfect your ombre if you feel as though it's a little bit tricky, especially working on short nails where you might be touching the skin. You can actually come in and create the ombre with your striped liner brush if you felt as though that was easier. I do just find using the ombre brush for any kind of blend makes it incredibly easy. I don't think I could do it gel polish ombre until I got this brush. keeping everything nice and clean around those sidewalls. I'm working on a silicone hand here, so it was a little bit tricky, but if you was working on yourself or a client, you would make sure that you've got your round nail art brush to hand with a little bit of alcohol. If you do accidentally touch the skin, you can then clean up with that. Going to finish up lastly on the little finger. And also another thing about your ombre is when you are going backwards and forwards with your ombre brush, you may create little strokes in the blend with your brush, but you will see whilst you're working on the next nail that will self level out on the first nail. So you can see kind of on the ring finger there's a few brush strokes left, but on the pointer and the middle finger they have self-leveled out. So by the time you finish the little finger, just give that little finger a few seconds for your brush strokes to self-level out and then pop it into cure, and that really helps give you that flawless finish. Here you can see I'm just pulling a little piece of, I think it was a little teeny tiny piece of fluff that was stuck in my gel polish. So I quickly pulled that out and wiped it on my glove because I had a little bit of a panic, like, oh my god, I don't want to mess up the ombre. Obviously any little bits of dust can ruin the overall finished result, so do make sure you pull any little particles that happen to land in your gel polish out before popping them into cure. Once I was happy with that ombre, I did pop them in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we're ready to come in and finish off and top coat. So I'm going to top coat today using the Kiki London No Wipe rubber top coat. Now the rubber top coat is great for adding strength to the nails, especially for anyone who's quite hard on their nails or prone to chip in. However, when I'm doing any kind of nail art, I reach for this top coat because it's that little bit thicker. I feel as though it encapsulates everything in beautifully and gives you that super smooth finish, especially when you've been doing things like marbles and ombres. You're playing around with that gel polish, moving it around, and although it does self-level, especially with a marble anyway, it can look a little bit uneven. When you come in and apply that layer of rubber top coat, it gets rid of any unevenness, it self-levels and smooths absolutely beautifully. It does require a 60-second cure, so I then popped that in to cure for 60 seconds, and this was the finished result. I thought they looked super sweet, and although more on the subtle side, I really loved them for spring, so I really hope you all enjoyed watching. As always, all of the products I've used will be linked in the description box below. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and hit that subscription button if you haven't already. I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Lots of love, take care, bye bye.